So we got some comments from the YouTube chat.
Yeah,
I want to bring them up.
Yeah,
you want to bring them now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Wait,
All right.
What?
I think they might.
Comments
I
or
think they got
questions?
off the hangout, but we'll bring them up anyway. Anthony said he wanted to know what we thought of Windows 10. I know we talked about some stuff, but
Well, that's
I guess,
been asked how many times.
But I guess to sum it up, and I'll start. I think it's going to be okay in the end. It is a change, even from Windows 8 to 10 or from 7 to 10. But the reality is, we're going to have to go to it eventually because Microsoft will stop updating 7 at some point.
Yeah.
Do you have to go to it immediately? No. I think you
think
can hold out if you want to, but
You got a year.
I say get used.
A year
might as well,
free.
At some point, you need
Yeah.
to make the switch.
I'll say after 10 comes out, I think we'll look at 8 like we looked at Vista,
Yes.
and we'll look at 10 like we look at 7.
It's possible. That's certainly possible.
And then we'll look around and say, where did 9 go?
yeah,
Because 7, 8,
I-
9.
7, 8. I know. God.
I know. All right. Also,
Was that the
Michael,
only
go
one?
ahead. Do you have something about Windows
No,
10?
was that the only one?
No, we got another
What's
one.
that?
Okay.
What's the other comment?
Frank, but with a CK at the end.
Okay.
I wanted to know, how do engineers find Juniper have come from a Cisco background? I guess he's from a Cisco background. And he said, you mean a hosted service. I'm not sure exactly. I guess it's Bruce.
Can I see the question?
Yeah, here you go. But
It's floating in the air. It's so low.
yeah, MacBook Air. Lighter
So
than air.
y'all go ahead and talk while I'm reading this.
But the thing with Windows 10 again is I'm not going to upgrade like my computer at work anytime soon, which I don't think I can do that anyway because it's kind of controlled the domain. But
Mhm.
I have to support other operating systems with products that I have to work with. So
Mhm.
I'll have it stood up somewhere where I can test it.
Right.
But I'm not ready to switch from 7 to 10 now. If you had a Windows 8 machine,
Mm-hmm.
I would look at it sooner because I'm not a big fan of Windows 8. But
Yeah.
you have a year before you can get a free upgrade. So I would definitely take advantage of it before the year is up. So, but you don't have to get it like the first day.
Or no,
So-
and I'll be the defense of Windows 8 and 8.1. I have used it and I've really enjoyed it. I tell you one feature that I really like, and it's sort of a copy, so to speak, but you can mount an ISO natively. You don't have to
That's right, you
add
can.
and I know somebody said, well, who cares about that? Well, when you're in my world, you do care about that.
Because before that required extra software.
and it was not
yes.
always that great. Now, Mac, you've always been able to do that for a long time.
Yes.
You can mount an ISO, and,
Right.
and I like that aspect. But that's just one thing. I mean, I guess I could develop a list, but there's a lot of stuff I like about it. As I've said before, it's faster, and I really think Windows 10 is going to build on this. I don't think it's anything that we should be afraid of. All right, Bruce, decipher.
So I'm still trying to decipher this
real
question,
quick
but-
because we want to jump from
Okay,
this.
so I guess he's asking. This is for Frank. Is wanting to know, I guess, what I think about Juniper since he comes from a Cisco background. So it sounds like he's mostly worked with Cisco stuff, and maybe they're about to switch to Juniper. I don't know. I would say, I mean, that's and probably a lot of people are like, what are you
That's
talking
okay.
about? So these are definitely enterprise grade equipment that we're talking about here, and they're very expensive. And Cisco, I would say, owns the market, but they're not the only one. I think the Juniper firewalls is, and that may be what he's hinting at. Well, I would. Yeah, so vague on the question. I don't know. So I'm going to do my best to address it, but I would say if you're trying to decide between Juniper and Cisco, I mean, if you're looking at just edge switches, if you're worried about cost, there's definitely other options out there that are cheaper. And one option that I wouldn't have considered until I've started doing some research was HP, because they have lifetime warranties on their switches.
Yeah.
Of course, Brocade has lifetime
Right.
warranties, and to me, that's more important instead of, Cisco's going to hit you with SmartNet, and you've got to keep all that on there. But Juniper, how does it compare? I mean, it's definitely a solid product. All the products they have. Verdict not out yet on their wireless services. I would pick somebody else before I would go with Juniper Wireless, unless you're just wanting to keep it all the same across and all your eggs in one basket with one company. But anywhere you go, if you're looking for a job, they're gonna ask, are you Cisco certified? If that's what you're in, and because all that stuff translates into these other vendors, there's some slight differences, but it's basically like, do you know how to use this? If so, then you can figure out how to use the rest. So hopefully I addressed that how you wanted. If not, definitely feel free to email us, write some more, and we can either just, email you back or discuss it on next week's show, which you'd probably want to hear it on next week's show because it's important to know that your question's being answered to where everybody can hear it.
Frank, thanks so much for the question.
Yeah.
And who was the previous person?
It was
Anthony.
Anthony,
Yes,
wasn't it?
Anthony.
Anthony, thanks so much for the
thank you so
question. We
much.
appreciate you listening, and if you're watching, we appreciate you watching. And we hope we have done some justice into discussing your. Oh, by the way, if Anthony's still listening, look up a couple of previous shows, and you can see if you go to our podcast, we write out a synopsis, and I cover pretty much almost everything in the synopsis that we're going to cover, and we have covered Windows 10 and had some questions. So you can listen to some of our podcasts, and we do further covering of that.
Which we'll cover it on weeks to come.
We
because
will.
it's going to be coming up.